Amazing encounter, CEO discovers hidden strength in poor girl and crying baby at the airport. Jack Thompson rushed through the bustling terminals of Philadelphia International Airport, his mind racing with numbers and projections that could either crown his career or send his tech firm into a tailspin. The merger looming before him was the pinnacle of years of effort, yet amid the crowd, a piercing wail caught his attention. There, on the cold, hard floor, was a young woman, Maria, desperately bouncing a distressed baby in her arms, tears pooling on her cheeks. The juxtaposition of her despair against his radiant ambition struck like a bolt of lightning. He hesitated. Was he really going to let a moment of humanity distract him from the future of his company? But as he watched her gently pat the baby's back, frustration and exhaustion written across her face, a flood of memories enveloped him, the nights his single mother had spent working, double shifts to keep them fed and clothed. His rise had been paved by sacrifices that someone like Maria might never comprehend. The disparity felt raw and unwelcome. "Hey," he approached, trying to project confidence while battling his own sense of inadequacy. Suddenly, his hustle felt frivolous, a world furthest from the grinding reality Maria faced. Her eyes flickered out of surprise, then softened, revealing a universe of fears. "Is everything okay?" She sighed, an almost inaudible intonation of defeat. "I am on my way to a job interview, but," her voice broke off as the baby's cries surged, relentless. Jack found himself grappling with a bizarre mixture of empathy and urgency. Here was a woman brimming with dreams, a job that promised liberation, and yet she was on the brink of collapse. "It's just so overwhelming," she whispered. As she spoke, Jack's heart sank further. Her story was one he had never truly acknowledged. How had he let ambition cloud his perception of hardship? High-stakes board meetings had insulated him, leaving no room for moments like this, unfiltered, raw, and painfully real. Clenching his jaw, he scanned their surroundings. People were casting judgmental glances, their judgments sharp enough to slice through the chaos. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As chaos erupted nearby, security alarms went off, sending a ripple of panic through the crowd. Jack's instincts kicked in, the frenzied scene mirrored the noise in his head. He moved closer to Maria, shielding her from the onslaught of curious spectators. The moment felt electric, igniting something primal within him. Anger bubbled as someone uttered a condescending remark about her worthiness. Who were they to judge? "Stop!" Jack's voice cut through the air, trembling with fervor. As the tension rose, the stakes of his internal struggle morphed into a tangible force, the privilege that had elevated him, juxtaposed with the heartache of a mother fighting for her child. The idea of leveraging his power crossed his mind. Could he use it to get Maria a chance? But would that support the very system he had always despised? Closer and closer, they edged toward her gate, anxiety palpable in the air. The clock was ticking, and Jack felt the pull of two worlds, the unforgiving corporate grind he had mastered, and the humanity he had neglected. Amidst the chaos, clarity broke through the noise, a choice lay before him with no easy answers. As they reached the final moments, Jack's breath hitched. Every second counted. What would he decide? How could this encounter determine not just their lives, but the very essence of his own character? The promise of a reckoning lingered, heavy and unresolved. Jack's heartbeat echoed in his ears, a relentless reminder of the stakes at hand. The chaos around him faded, crystallizing his focus on Maria and the helpless baby in her arms. Here was an opportunity, a moment where he could step beyond his carefully constructed corporate existence and reflect the humanity he had disregarded for so long. Would he step forward and break the cycle of indifference, or would he retreat to the safe embrace of his professional ambitions? His breath felt constricted, as if the clean-cut, tailored spaces of boardrooms were closing in, suffocating him. He could almost hear the whispers of his colleagues, dismissing compassion as a weakness, urging him to ignore the noise of others' struggles in pursuit of profit. But this was different, this was visceral. It called to his heart and pounded against the walls he had built. "Maria," he uttered suddenly, voice steadier than he felt. "Let me help you." With these simple words, Jack felt a subtle shift within himself, an inkling of courage pulled from a well of empathy thought he'd forgotten. As he glanced at the clock again, time felt warped, now bending and stretching in this embrace of urgency. The interview was slipping away, and with it, Maria's chance for a new life. Maria's eyes filled with hesitant hope. "But what can you do?" The desperation in her voice was palpable, yet so was the spark of possibility. Jack thought fast, his mind racing through the connections he had, the people he could reach out to. "I know people in this industry," he confessed, almost surprised by his own words. "I can give you my card. If we get you there on time, I can speak with the hiring manager after. I'll let them know how dedicated you are." The weight of his offer settled against his chest. He was crossing a line he had always been cautious of. This wasn't just any job candidate, this was someone needing a leg up in a system that often suffocated the underprivileged. As Maria mulled over his proposal, uncertainty flickered behind her eyes. "Are you sure? Can you even? What if they don't take me seriously? Believe me, you deserve this. They need to see you, not just your circumstances or your past," Jack insisted, his voice firm. It was a reflection of the resolve building within him. For too long, he had let ambition dictate his decisions, embracing a self-centric narrative. With a determined nod, Maria wiped her tears, her expression shifting from despair to cautious optimism. In that moment, he felt an awakening within, illuminating the paths of his ambition with purpose. They made their way toward the gate, adrenaline coursing through him. It was strange, the usual knot of anxiety he had associated with professional occasions was now transformed into electric energy fueled by a genuine cause. The clock still ticked mercilessly, footsteps echoing louder in the rushing currents of the bustling airport. They reached the interview area just as the last call for her flight blared through the PA system. Jack could feel the weight of time bearing down on him anew, the police sirens and security personnel still buzzing in the background adding to the tension. "Let us get you on that plane," Jack said, his heart racing as he prepared to introduce her to the professional world he navigated with ease, not because he was better, but because he had accepted the obstacles along the way that formed his character. Would Maria accept his help? Would she leap into an uncertain future that seemed to mirror the challenges he had faced? As her flight attendant beckoned, both their fates hung in the balance, and Jack realized that he was not just on the verge of altering her journey, he was redefining his own. The moment was brewing, charged and unresolved, ripe for revelation. What would they discover about themselves on this precarious path? Jack understood one thing: change was coming, and it would test everything he thought he believed in. The true challenge was just beginning. Jack felt the weight of their situation pressing down on him like a physical force as they stood at the gate. He glanced at Maria, who clutched her baby tightly, a protector locked in a moment of trembling uncertainty. In that instant, he recognized a reflection of his past, a younger version of himself, unsure and vulnerable, standing at the precipice of opportunity. "Maria," he said, his voice steadying, "just remember why you're doing this. You're not just fighting for a job, you're fighting for a future." The words echoed in his mind, resonating against the walls he had erected around his ambition. She met his gaze, her eyes searching his for reassurance. "What if they see me just as a single mother without a degree? What if they don't think I'm enough?" Jack felt a pang of anger at a system that so readily marginalized honest effort based on superficial judgments. "You're more than that. Your dedication, your resilience, it speaks louder than any degree." As the gate attendant motioned for her to board, Jack felt the urgency blossoming in his chest. "Trust yourself. Take that step, and I'll be right here if you need me. This small act of support felt monumental, not only for Maria but for his own evolution. He was transforming before her eyes, shedding layers of self-interest, revealing the person he could become. She nodded slowly, and he could see a flicker of determination igniting in her demeanor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his business card, holding it out to her. Call me after your interview no matter the outcome. We can figure out the next steps from there. Maria hesitated at first, then took the card with trembling fingers, wrapping it tightly in her hand as if it were a lifeline. Before she turned to leave, she said softly, "Thank you, Jack. You're giving me hope." As she walked toward the plane, Jack felt a rush of pride. This was unfamiliar territory for him. He had always been the one receiving help, the one climbing a predestined ladder of success. Watching her take stride after stride, she was climbing a much harder ladder, one made of risks and insecurities. The moment the doors to the aircraft closed, a sudden pang of fear gripped Jack. What if she failed? What if his words of encouragement proved hollow against the harsh realities of corporate expectations? Anxiety clawed at him, but it was quickly replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose. He pulled out his phone, dialing the number of a colleague he believed would have insights into the hiring process. The conversation was a blur of information about Maria's potential, every persuasive argument he could formulate connected to the narrative he now lived. He was a bridge between two worlds, and the act filled him with exhilaration. Yet, beneath the surface, he wrestled with a growing unsettling realization about himself. Was he genuinely helping her, or was it an impulse born out of his own need for redemption? Jack leaned against the airport's cold, sterile wall, chewing on that very thought. It gnawed at him, prodding his conscience and revealing a deeper conflict he had been comfortable ignoring, the interplay between his corporate ambition and true advocacy for others. As he paced the terminal, the question echoed louder: what was he willing to sacrifice for another's success? The urgency of the moment had reignited passions he thought had long ago faded. Lost in contemplation, he was interrupted by a notification buzzing on his phone. The time for his interview was approaching rapidly. With his heart still racing, Jack realized he now stood at his own crossroads. He had to confront his past actions, the cold distance he had maintained in his professional world. The clock was ticking, but this time it wasn't just a countdown for his own opportunity. It was a reflection of the choices that could ripple beyond himself. Time to make a decision, Jack, he whispered to himself, as he stepped toward the doors leading to the interview room. Would he reinforce the old norms he'd relied upon, or would he embrace this stir of authenticity he'd discovered within? As he prepared to walk into that room, Jack sensed change lurking at the edges of his ambition, waiting to reshape him forever. The moment for truth had come, but it was a truth he had yet to fully understand. As Jack approached the interview room, a torrent of anxiety surged through him, each footfall echoing the doubts multiplying in his mind. He remembered the faces of so many women and men he had silently judged, the numbers he had crunched while disregarding the stories behind them. This was a chance to evolve from passive observer to active participant. No longer could he afford to coast on the surface of success without acknowledging the depths of others' struggles. As he stepped inside, the room felt starkly different. A mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs that seemed to bear the gravitas of many unspoken conversations. 3 executives eyed him, their expressions a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Jack took a deep breath, aware that he was not just representing himself but also embodying every person like Maria who ever felt marginalized and overlooked. "Good morning, Jack," the lead interviewer said, her voice smooth yet commanding. "Let's dive right in. Why do you think you'd be a good fit for this position?" The familiar corporate jargon tempted him, the practiced performance he had rehearsed countless times. But now, in this moment, it felt hollow. Instead, he decided to pivot. Inhaling deeply, he chose authenticity over the expected response. "I believe my strength lies in understanding the human element behind business decisions," he began. "Every data point is a story, a person, a life. I've come to realize that true leadership is about elevating those narratives and ensuring they are integral to the vision of our company." Silence hung in the air, palpable and charged. The executives exchanged glances while Jack felt the walls of his own reservation start to crumble. He pressed on, fueled by the conviction he had felt only moments before regarding Maria. "I've recently seen firsthand the struggles others endure. For instance, I met a mother facing overwhelming barriers just to secure an opportunity. Her story ignited my desire to change the status quo within our industry." The lead interviewer raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And how do you propose to initiate that change within our organization?" Jack leaned forward, emboldened. The conversation steered toward innovation in hiring practices and how to foster environments where potential could be recognized in everyone, not just those who fit a predetermined mold. But as he spoke, doubts perched on the edges of his mind, sharp and skeptical. Was his newfound approach rooted in sincerity, or was he using it as a smokescreen, a way to mask his lingering insecurities? With each passing question from the executives, something shifted within him, peeling away layers of self-doubt. He realized he was in a moment of rediscovery. This interview was as much about him as it was about the job. It was about choosing accountability over concealment, about nurturing a culture of inclusivity over sustaining a hierarchy of exclusion. As the conversation progressed, Jack's resolve solidified. He wasn't just trying to make a point anymore, he was aspiring to be a catalyst of change, for himself and for others. The structure of corporate success felt like a shared responsibility rather than a solitary climb. When the meeting concluded, the executives nodded, impressed yet contemplative. "We'll be in touch," the lead said, and Jack felt a flush of possibility. It was different this time. A sense of agency coursed through him. Emerging from the interview room, an odd sense of liberation overwhelmed him. He felt detached from the fear that had threatened to define him. The journey ahead was still unknown, but Jack understood one thing: he had glimpsed the man he could become, the advocate and leader pulsating beneath the surface. Still riding the high of self-discovery, Jack's phone vibrated in his pocket, a text message from Maria. A wave of nervous anticipation washed over him. What had happened? The unknown gnawed at him, a reminder that in embracing change, he had also opened the door for others' stories to intertwine with his. What awaited him on the other side of that text could alter everything. The dim light of a late afternoon streamed through the glass of Jack's office window, contrasting sharply with the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. The text from Maria replayed in his mind: "I need to talk. It's about the baby." He felt a mixture of dread and curiosity. Her situation was precarious, and the implications could be significant. He tapped his fingers against the desk, reflecting on the surreal transition he had made from being an observer of lives lived on the margins to actively engaging with them. What began as an agonizing interview had morphed into a pivotal moment of personal evolution. Jack no longer felt confined to the sterile efficiency of numbers and graphs. He craved deeper connections, understanding, and the possibility of making institutional change. His thoughts shifted as he considered his next steps. Should he reach out to Maria now, or wait until he had more clarity on her situation? The uncertainty gnawed at him. Instead of finding comfort in the familiar routine of spreadsheets and reports, he resolved to prioritize the human factor. Jack picked up his phone, swiping through contacts until he found Maria's name. He hesitated, momentarily overwhelmed by the weight of the impending conversation. Was he ready to face the complexities not just of her life, but of his own evolving identity? Before he could second-guess himself, he hit call. As the phone rang, Jack's heart raced. When Maria answered, her voice trembled slightly but was filled with a quiet strength. "Jack. I wasn't sure you'd answer," she said, her vulnerability palpable. "I'm here for you, Maria." "Talk to me," Jack replied, aware of how genuine and reassuring his words sounded. This was uncharted territory for him, yet it also felt electric. "I had a job interview lined up, something that could change everything for me. But Michelle was sick, and I had to stay home with her. I missed my chance. Jack felt his heart drop. The gravity of her situation pressed against him. That's awful. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? I just don't know what the next step is. I feel lost. Her despair reflected the shadows he had once lived in, the very doubt that he had been striving to overcome. It's okay to feel that way, he said, channeling his newfound confidence. But we can strategize. Let us figure this out together. I'll support you in any way I can. Maria paused, the silence stretching between them as if she were weighing his offer. Really? You'd do that for me? Yes, he affirmed, meaning it deeply. You've inspired me to look beyond myself. Your story matters, and so does your journey forward. A sliver of hope broke through her uncertainty. I appreciate that, Jack. I thought I was just a burden. You're never a burden, he countered, feeling genuine anger rise against the systems that had marginalized her. You deserve every opportunity. Jack found himself thinking back to the interview and the potential opportunity to drive change within a corporate structure that could enable stories like Maria's to flourish. Maybe it's time I push for more inclusive practices at the company, he thought to himself, excited yet apprehensive. How can we turn this great reset into actionable results both for her and others? As he wrapped up the call, an unexpected determination settled over him. He realized he had a choice, to remain passive or to advocate fiercely, not just for his own career but for those whose voices were unheard. Jack's mind raced with the possibilities. He felt a sense of responsibility growing, a fire igniting within him. But as he faced this new calling, he was painfully aware that the road ahead would be riddled with obstacles, not just for Maria but for himself as well. He glanced at his reflection in the window. The man looking back was uncertain but resolute. The stakes were higher than ever, not only for him but for those who depended on him to instigate real, transformational change. What did this renewed commitment mean for the potential role he might play in the company? As his thoughts spiraled, one unshakable question loomed: could he balance his professional aspirations with the moral imperatives now clear before him? Jack steeled himself for the changes ahead, his mind racing as he processed the implications of his conversation with Maria. He had stepped out of the confines of mere numbers and policies and consciously positioned himself at the heart of a human journey. The urgency to act was palpable. He knew that the stakes went beyond his connection with Maria. It included the future he envisioned for both her and others like her. The next day, he arrived at the office earlier than usual. The fluorescent lights flickered to life as he stared at the walls of his cubicle, feeling stifled yet driven by an unfamiliar momentum. Empowered by his conversation with Maria, Jack gathered his notes for the upcoming meeting on workplace inclusivity. He couldn't ignore the gnawing anxiety in his gut. What if his ideas were met with resistance? What if he was dismissed, just another voice among many? And yet, the thought of remaining silent felt like an outright betrayal to those who had been marginalized. As the morning rolled on, Jack paced the floor, rehearsing the words he hoped could inspire change. He envisioned the statistics he would present not just as numbers but as faces, the lives behind them, including Maria's. He felt a profound responsibility guiding his approach. His hands shook slightly as he clicked through the slides on his laptop, the images of diverse teams and insights into demographics blurring before him. When the meeting commenced, he observed the familiar faces of his colleagues. They exuded confidence, playing their roles like actors in a well-scripted performance. As his turn approached, Jack hesitated, recognizing the thunderous beating of his heart. The conference room felt both suffocating and charged with potential. Today, I want to talk about inclusive practices and the systemic barriers in our hiring process, he declared, shaking off the hesitation. He sensed both skepticism and interest glimmering in their eyes as he progressed through his presentation. Each statistic punctuated by personal anecdotes shifted the atmosphere. He highlighted how talent often lay dormant, too often overlooked, awaiting a chance much like Maria. I recently spoke to someone directly affected by our practices, Jack continued, locking eyes with Veronica, the head of HR, who had a reputation for being critical. Her story made me realize that we could be doing so much more. We owe it to people like her to ensure they have access to opportunities, not just opportunities on paper but real doors opened for their futures. Veronica leaned in, a questioning brow raised, and Jack felt the tension in the air shift. He pressed forward, emboldened by the thought of Maria and the struggles she faced. The vulnerability he once shied away from was now his greatest strength. He felt a surge of purpose wash over him. The room erupted in discussion, colleagues weighing in with their perspectives. The conversation grew heated as supporters backed Jack's perspective, while critics voiced concerns about implementation. Jack's pulse raced, the emerging conflict felt like a storm brewing, but he was resolute. This was his moment, the catalyst he needed. Just as Jack felt he had gained momentum, a voice interrupted the exchange, sending a chill down his spine. It was Craig, the CFO, known for his quick dismissal of non-numerical arguments. "You're talking about opening the floodgates for unqualified applicants. What's the ROI?" Jack swallowed hard, knowing he had to confront these fears directly. "Craig, the real return on investment lies beyond numbers. It's about transforming lives and building a diverse culture that reflects the values we claim to uphold." As the meeting reached a fever pitch, Jack could feel his vision unfolding, shaping into something tangible. Advocating for change was more intense than he had anticipated, testing his resolve and forcing him to confront the very foundations of his career. He left the meeting with a storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. Had he managed to light a flame of change? Or had he merely brushed against the glass ceiling, revealing the fragility of his aspirations? Later that week, Jack received an unexpected message from Maria. She wanted to meet, to discuss her future. The words felt like a clarion call, echoing his thoughts on his own transformation. As he prepared for the conversation, one question loomed larger than ever: would he be able to wield the influence he was beginning to uncover to truly make a difference, not just for Maria but for countless others seeking the same opportunities? How far was he willing to go to carve a new path, one that aligned his professional ambitions with the moral imperative he felt burning within? The challenge stretched ahead of him, daunting yet exhilarating. The crossroads were before him, and he knew the next steps would either solidify his commitment or reveal the fragility of his resolve. In the days following the meeting, Jack felt a peculiar sense of urgency fueling his every decision. Each email notification seemed like a siren call guiding him toward the unknown horizon he was beginning to chart. He spent nights researching successful diversity initiatives, crafting a proposal that would reshape not only hiring practices but the very soul of the company culture. He had glimpsed the spark of change through Maria, and now it consumed him. On the day of the meeting with Maria, Jack wrestled with a whirlwind of emotions. As he approached the cafe where they agreed to meet, each step felt heavier than the last, laden with expectations. Would she see the potential he felt pulsating within her? Was he ready to offer not just words but a tangible path forward, one that matched her hopes to the reality of the world they inhabited? He found her waiting at a small table, fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Her expression was a mix of uncertainty and resolve. "Hey, Jack," she greeted, her voice barely above a whisper, as if intimate concerns might spill over into the noisy ambience around them. "Hey, Maria. I'm really glad we could meet." Jack forced a smile, though his insides twisted with anxiety. He took a seat opposite her, and as he did, he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, a profound need to guide her without overshadowing her own aspirations. "I've been thinking a lot about what we discussed," he began, unfolding the possibilities he envisioned. "I want to help you speak to management about creating a mentorship program targeting people from backgrounds like yours. It could bring real change." Maria's eyes widened. "You think they'd listen to me? To someone like me?" Jack leaned in. "Not just listen, I believe they'd understand. Your experiences, your drive, they matter. You have a voice, and it's worth amplifying. But we'll need a solid plan. A nervous laugh escaped her. "I've always felt invisible in these settings. That changes today." Jack leaned back, searching for ways to inspire her confidence. "Your story isn't just yours anymore, it could resonate with others. We can make this a platform, not just for you but for anyone who feels overlooked." As they mapped out a strategy, Jack's apprehension began to ebb, replaced by the determination that could ignite change. Ideas flowed, seeking out allies among their colleagues, scheduling informal brainstorming sessions, even using social media as a tool for outreach. The more they discussed, the more Jack realized that this wasn't just about Maria, it was about mutual empowerment and challenging long-held assumptions. Yet a creeping doubt lingered at the back of Jack's mind. He wondered if he was being naive. How much power could he leverage in such a rigid corporate environment? Maria's bright enthusiasm reminded Jack of the uncharted territories of his own path. It was daunting, yet liberating. By the time they wrapped up, Maria's demeanor had shifted from apprehension to purpose. "I never thought I'd have someone standing with me like this. It's a bit terrifying, though," she admitted, a flicker of fear shadowing her eyes. "That just means it matters," Jack replied, feeling the warmth of connection. "Every leap forward comes with fear. It's up to us to navigate it together." After they parted ways, an ambiguity in Jack's heart loomed larger than before. He was invested in both Maria's journey and his own, yet he recognized the risk of channeling his ambition into her aspirations. Would his desire to help empower her genuinely foster growth, or would it overshadow her own agency? As the week dragged on, Jack grew increasingly restless. His days at the office became filled with speculation about the balance he needed to maintain between guidance and support. On the journey toward significant change, he found himself entangled in his own evolving identity, one that demanded he confront the fears of inadequacy he had long buried beneath the surface. The moment arrived when Jack sat down to draft a formal proposal that would be presented in front of upper management. His hands trembled slightly as he typed out the words, "Creating opportunities, a proposal for inclusive mentorship." It felt like a gamble, an audacious leap into a chasm of uncertainty. But just as he reached the last line, a notification pinged on his phone. It was an email from Craig, requesting a private meeting. An immediate tension knotted in Jack's stomach. What could this mean? Had his efforts drawn attention, or was it a warning of potential backlash? But there was no turning back now. Jack realized that he was at yet another crossroads, a moment where he had to confront the specter of doubt that loitered at the edges of his courage. The time had come to face whatever awaited him. His determination now welded to a commitment not just for Maria but for a future he yearned to help forge. What awaited him in that brief meeting with Craig might change everything. Jack took a deep breath and set his mind on the path forward, knowing he would either have to defend his vision or rethink his approach entirely. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome could either catapult him into a new realm of influence or leave him grappling with unanswered questions yet again. As Jack made his way to Craig's office, each step felt like an echo reverberating in the hollow spaces of his mind. The sleek hallways of their corporate headquarters, lined with glass partitions and artwork that felt overly polished, contrasted sharply with the fluttering uncertainty he felt in his gut. What would Craig say? Would he see Jack's proposal as bold vision or misguided ambition? Entering the office, Jack was greeted by an airy silence that hung heavily, punctuated only by the soft hum of the air conditioning. Craig sat behind his expansive desk, moving through a set of documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. Jack noted the distinguishable demeanor, firm, focused, yet relaxed. It almost made him question whether this was the same man who had sent him that ominous email. "Jack, come in," Craig said, gesturing for him to sit. The moment felt surreal, like stepping into a parallel reality where every word would weigh more than before. Jack maintained an even posture, though his hands fidgeted slightly in his lap, betraying the tension that coursed through him. "I wanted to discuss your recent proposal." Craig's eyes narrowed slightly as if taking the measure of Jack before continuing. "There are some strong points, but I have concerns. Jack swallowed hard, nodding, already bracing for resistance. What are your concerns? I believe we're on the verge of something transformative here. Craig leaned back, examining him as if gauging Jack's resolve. It's not about the idea, Jack. It's about execution. You have passion, but passion without a clear plan can be dangerous. Using the pause, Jack recalled his conversations with Maria. He sensed the potential sway of their plans, but without a robust strategy, would it all collapse? I understand that, and I've been working on a more detailed plan, he ventured, choosing his words with care. We've identified potential allies, mapped out phases for the mentorship program, and engaged with various departments for support. Craig raised an eyebrow, intrigued. You've engaged how? Taking a breath, Jack laid out the groundwork he and Maria had sketched together. He described the informal sessions they planned to host, the outreach efforts on social media, and the data they gathered on employee satisfaction regarding diversity initiatives. With every detail, he felt a shift, a burgeoning confidence rising within. Craig's posture softened a fraction, and for a brief moment, Jack allowed hope to blossom within him. Maybe this was the gateway to a significant impact, not just for Maria but for the entire organization. Well, it's a start, Craig replied after a moment of silence. But you need to anticipate pushback. Pushing for inclusivity in our culture is a steep climb. People don't typically embrace change willingly at first. The words hit Jack hard, a flash of determination igniting within him. And we need that change, Craig. Employees are looking for more than just a paycheck, they want fulfillment and acknowledgement. I'm ready to confront the backlash if it means a chance at true inclusivity. Craig pierced him with a scrutinizing gaze, and in that instant, Jack's fear dissipated, replaced by an unexpected clarity. This wasn't just about Maria, it was a call to action anchored in his own beliefs. The desire for an equitable workplace was rooted in something more substantial, more personal. Okay, let's discuss a potential pilot program that could help mitigate risk while testing these ideas, Craig said, a hint of approval lacing his voice. One that would offer measurable results before attempting the broader implementation. Jack's heart raced at the opening. I can gather a small group for the pilot. Start with those who have already expressed interest. We can refine our approach based on their feedback. Keep me updated, Craig replied, a brief flicker of enthusiasm crossing his face. I want to see this thought process evolve, but remember, communication is key. As he left the office, Jack felt the weight of his earlier doubts lighten. He had turned the pendulum in his favor, if just slightly. Yet, even as elation coursed through him, a nagging question lingered: could he sustain this momentum? Was he truly ready to confront inevitable resistance, not only from others, but from within himself? Determined to maintain his initiative, Jack sat down later that evening, laser-focused on crafting a comprehensive outline for the pilot program. A sense of urgency had returned, a reminder that he was stepping into a role of influence not just for himself, but for those who had been overlooked. However, as he set his fingers to the keyboard, a new notification pinged, a message from Maria. The excitement was palpable, but he hesitated, a sudden jolt of worry coursing through him. Was she feeling ready to step onto this stage, or had the burden of expectation begun to weigh her down? Feeling the adrenaline spike, he clicked open the message and began to read, wondering if it would signal the beginning of something truly remarkable or if he would face yet another challenge in this shared journey. Jack's heart raced as he absorbed Maria's message, her words both reassuring and tinged with uncertainty. She had expressed her enthusiasm for moving forward but had also alluded to feeling overwhelmed by the expectations placed on her. The weight of their project loomed larger than either of them had anticipated. He had fought battles in his mind, but how would Maria fare in this unforgiving corporate climate? As he sat there, the cursor blinked on a blank page, mirroring the chaos inside. He wrestled with a nagging doubt: was he being greedy for pushing this initiative, for believing in a vision that could potentially reshape their workplace? What if things started to collapse under the weight of ambition? Jack pulled his thoughts back, focusing on the task at hand, his passion fueled by a newfound sense of purpose. Jack decided to respond quickly. He articulated his understanding of her feelings, reassuring her that they were in this together, that he would be there to support her every step of the way. After hitting send, he took a deep breath. This was more than just a professional endeavor for him now, it felt personal, a reflection of his own growth and integrity. The following days were a whirlwind of planning and strategizing. Jack organized quick brainstorming sessions with the group he had recruited for the pilot program. People who had already expressed interest were eager to share their insights and concerns. He facilitated open discussions, creating a safe space for everyone to voice their opinions. At one session, he noticed Kelly, a junior analyst with a sharp mind but a tendency to retreat into the background. After a few rounds of engagement, she finally spoke up, sharing a unique perspective on the challenges they might face during implementation. Encouraged by this moment, Jack seized the opportunity to draw out the contributions from the quieter members, urging them to speak boldly. Each session reinforced his growing realization, this initiative was more than simply about inclusivity, it was about unlocking the potential of every individual in the room, people like Kelly who yearned for a platform to be heard. As they collaborated, Jack discovered an unexpected ability to inspire others, something he initially overlooked as merely a functional aspect of his role. But it became clear, he had a knack for cultivation, for nurturing talent where it had thrived in shadows. Yet, as confidence blossomed within him, self-doubt lurked in the corners. At night, he would replay their discussions, questioning whether he was guiding them toward genuine change or manipulating their aspirations. Was he elevating their voices, or attempting to amplify his own? One evening, as Jack worked late, a knock on his office door broke his concentration. It was Craig, his expression unreadable. "Jack, I've been hearing good things," Craig began, leaning against the doorframe. "Your pilot team is gaining momentum. But I want to know, are you preparing for what happens when you hit resistance? Your vision is ambitious, and not everyone will support it." Jack felt a lump form in his throat. "I'm ready. But I'm concerned about how it will impact Maria. She's been struggling with the expectations, and I don't want her to falter because of me." Craig's gaze softened. "You're already anticipating the challenges. That's a good start. Keep that level of self-awareness, and you could lead this initiative to places it has never been." As the door clicked shut behind Craig, Jack stared at the stack of notes on his desk, his thoughts swirling. Self-awareness was vital, but was he truly ready to embrace the backlash that would inevitably arise? With each step forward, he felt the weight of his own standards pressing down, and yet, he craved the journey that lay ahead. Fueled by determination, he resumed his preparations but couldn't shake the feeling that his real test was still to come. The moment now loomed larger than ever, and he was left questioning how would he truly confront the inevitable wave of resistance he was yet to face. The sun filtered through the blinds of Jack's office, casting striped shadows on the polished desk where he had meticulously laid out strategies for the implementation of the pilot program. The initiative, which sought to create inclusive mentorship pathways, had taken shape over the last few weeks and was on the cusp of launch. Yet, with success looming, an edgy anticipation buzzed in the air. Jack could still recall every moment of vulnerability he had faced since meeting Maria at the airport, the dread of judgment, the exhilarating realization that he could leverage his position for meaningful change, and the quiet moments of reflection that had altered the very core of his professional ambitions. As he gazed at the stack of notes, he realized that his unyielding desire to accommodate others was transforming into a leadership style that prioritized authenticity and inclusiveness. A notification chimed from his phone, dispelling the stillness with its echo. It was a direct message from Maria, a thin layer of uncertainty woven between the lines. "I think we need to discuss how I fit into this. I hold a lot of responsibilities now. I worry I might disappoint everyone." In that moment, Jack felt that surge of empathy wash over him once more, mirroring the exact emotion that had propelled him forward since their initial encounter. He understood her concerns after all, he had once stood at that same precipice of doubt. Responding immediately, he reminded her of the strength she possessed. You are not alone in this. Remember, this is a shared journey. Your story resonates with so many of us. His words felt bold, reflecting the growth he had achieved in articulating empathy without fear of being misconstrued. He encouraged her to meet him for coffee to unpack her concerns further, to create a space for her to breathe, to recalibrate. As he entered the cafe later that afternoon, Jack noticed Maria sitting in a corner, hands cradling a steaming cup of coffee. Her face bore the marks of lingering apprehension, but there was a sparkle in her eyes, a flicker of possibility. Sliding into the chair opposite her, Jack offered a warm smile. I'm really glad we could meet. Let's chat about what's on your mind. I want to do this, Jack, she began, her voice steady but quivering with the weight of responsibility. But what if I falter? What if my contributions don't measure up? I've carried a burden long enough, it's hard to think of myself as anything more than struggling. Jack leaned forward, passion igniting within him. It's not about perfection, Maria, it's about progress. Look at everything you've accomplished to get here. Just being here today shows you're ready to take the next step. What you bring to the table is invaluable, it's your lived experience. Each obstacle you've overcome has made you uniquely qualified to influence others who face similar battles. The flicker of confidence in her eyes began to burn brighter. Jack realized that his support had the potential to transform his own narrative as well. He was not just facilitating Maria's growth, he was also evolving into a leader who cherished the value of resilience and support. As the conversation flowed, Maria spoke of her vision, sharing her ideas for developing workshops designed to empower others in the organization. The dialogue shifted from doubt to determination, their laughter cutting through the weight of expectation. This was a defining moment for both of them, a juncture where personal growth interacted with unified purpose. As they wrapped up the conversation, Jack could feel the gravity of their shared journey pressing down. This was about authentic change. Leaving the cafe, he felt buoyant, ready to bring fresh vitality back to the office. The growing sense of camaraderie with Maria reinforced his commitment to shift corporate culture, to amplify voices that had remained silent for too long. The following week, Jack stood at the helm of the meeting room, ready to present their holistic plan to upper management. Nerves thrummed beneath his facade, but he focused. On Maria's words, never let fear diminish your story. As he began outlining the need for mentorship and inclusivity, his confidence expanded. He wasn't simply advocating for Maria's future, he was vowing to transform the workplace ecosystem. This initiative is not merely a checkbox, it's a lifeline, Jack declared, his voice coating the air with conviction. The executives listened, eyebrows furrowing while he laid out real-life examples of how inclusive environments drove creativity and success. Conversations shifted from financial projections to human experiences. He was pushing the boundaries of their traditional metrics. These changes won't only yield tangible benefits, they will build trust, they will build culture, Jack posited, locking eyes with Craig, who observed carefully, absorbed in the vision Jack painted. But as he unveiled the piece that modeled the support structure for potential candidates like Maria, the tension ratcheted up. This isn't just another initiative, it's a commitment to ensure individuals are fortified with tools and mentorships designed for success. I'm ready to face any criticisms that arise because the stakes are too high not to. Jack felt empowered, each assertion ringing with sincerity as he took a stand for both Maria and every other employee overlooked in their journey. The meeting escalated into vibrant discussion, objections lodged, and counsel asserted. He felt ready for the pushback. He had seen firsthand the impact shared stories could have. By the time Jack left that meeting, buoyed by the collaborative engagement that had unfolded, he felt solid confidence growing. With every step he took toward championing the initiative, he knew he was not just a leader on paper, but one honing an authentic presence, inviting conversation and community into corporate structures. Later that evening, fresh ideas still coursing through his mind, Jack received a text from Maria. It was short but profound. Jack, they're on board. I have faith in what we started together. Thank you for believing. At that moment, Jack understood that transformation wasn't signed off in boardrooms or finalized through proposals, it occurred between people. The mixed shadows of self-doubt and insecurity he had navigated became echoes of the past, replaced by solid satisfaction and a newfound mission. Jack's journey had evolved into one characterized by invigorated purpose. His connections with people became more than strategic actors in business, they were vibrant stories yearning to be heard, thriving within a culture of inclusion. Steadfastly, he felt dual achievement. Assembling Maria's evolution amidst the corporate landscape mirrored his own transformative capacity. Tomorrow would hold its obstacles, but the way ahead gleamed with possibility. The long-awaited change was underway, poised for many to encounter success on their journey, not just through his efforts but through the collective resilience birthed from shared struggles. Jack had conquered a chapter of himself, emerging as a leader woven with authenticity, empathy, and resolve, all stemming from that fleeting yet profound encounter with Maria at the airport. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this transformative journey. Comment below with your reactions and theories about the conclusion, your insights are crucial. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this powerful story of redemption and all its profound impacts. Your action means everything.